Before we get started, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so that you don't miss any of the content that is released by GoCollect. And if you're interested, head over to Reggie Collects here on YouTube. Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector and the host of the GoCollect speculation video, and I want to welcome you to another episode. In this episode, we are going to take some time to look at 6 blog posts that are available on the GoCollect.com website. All of these blog posts are also linked in the description of this video, so I definitely want to encourage you to check them out in their entirety. While you're at it, you might also want to check out the swag shop. The folks at GoCollect are constantly releasing really awesome merchandise, and if you use my code Reggie, you can save yourself a couple of bucks. With that said, let's check out the blog post. There is a lot of talk right now at both Marvel and DC, specifically when it comes to the movies and the TV shows about diversity. And just this week, there was a lot of talk about the next Superman, or the person that's going to be playing the role of Superman, possibly being a minority character. And so again, there is a lot of talk and a lot of excitement around diversity. And a lot of that attention right now is really focused on some of the newer characters. But our first blogger actually does a really good job of reminding us of some diverse characters from the past that you might want to check out, because these folks could come to the surface if the wind blows in a certain direction. And over the course of this blog post, our blogger highlights 4 different diverse characters that you may want to check out. The first is White Tiger. White Tiger made his first appearance in The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu issue number 19. And he is actually a character of Puerto Rican descent and is actually the first Latino superhero in Marvel Comics. Now, why are we focused on the White Tiger? There is the Shang-Chi movie that is going to be coming out, and there are a lot of rumors as to which martial artist could appear in this movie. And White Tiger is a martial artist, and so there are folks that believe that he could make an appearance. If you believe this is the case, this is definitely a book that you want to check out. While we're on the topic of martial artists, there is another character that I want to mention. And I'm specifically talking about Echo. Echo is of Native American origins, and as I mentioned, is a martial artist that is rumored to be coming to the MCU. And I will tell you that I have a couple of her first appearances sitting in a short box off to my left, because I really dig this character and I am betting that she is going to appear in the MCU. And if you want to bet, place a bet as well, you might want to pick up her first appearance, which happened to be Daredevil issue number 9. And while we're on the topic of women, there is another character that I want to mention, Jubilee. This character is a fan favorite for a lot of people that used to watch the X-Men animated series back in the day. Jubilee was a cornerstone of that series and is also, again, a fan favorite because of how she appeared in the comics. She is a Chinese American, and again, another diverse play. And if you believe that there is a possibility that Jubilee could appear in the MCU, you may want to pick up her first appearance, which happened to be in Uncanny X-Men issue number 244. There is one other character that is mentioned in this blog post. I am not going to tell you who it is because I want you to check out the blog post. It is linked in the description. With the pending release of the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, the values associated with Falcon's first appearance in Captain America issue number 117 have skyrocketed. In fact, when you look at the data, what you see is that over the last few years, the value of this comic has increased dramatically. The 8.0, for example, has risen over 50% over the last 3 years and currently sells for more than $600. For a lot of people, that puts them out of the running for that book because of that price. But our next blogger does a really good job of highlighting 3 books that you may want to check out if you believe that there is some additional value that could be derived from the Falcon. One of the first books that I want to mention to you associated with the Falcon is his first solo story. And this happened 10 years after his first appearance in Marvel Premiere issue number 49 from 1979. According to GoCollect, 9.8 copies of this book sell for around $90, but it's possible to actually find high-grade raw copies of this book for as little as $10 on eBay. Another book that the blogger highlights in this post is Avengers issue number 184, and this is where Falcon joins the Avengers. Over the last 3 years, the value of this book at a 9.8 has only risen 1.6%. In fact, you can actually buy 9.8s for around $80. Raw grade copies of this book, high grade raw copies, are also available on eBay for just a couple of bucks. There is one other undervalued Falcon key that you may want to check out. It is associated with a costume change. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You guessed it. Check out the blog post linked in the description. As I mentioned earlier in this episode, diversity is the name of the game. And there is a phrase that I actually want to read you from this next blog post that I thought was really well written. And it basically says that regardless of what your politics are, the most important factor for a conglomerate like Disney is first and foremost what the market demands. And in this case, the global market demands diversity, and Disney therefore supplies it. This is true both in film and also in comics. The blogger goes on to highlight a couple of books and a couple of characters that you may want to check out. Again, if you believe that Disney is going to continue moving down the path of adding diversity to the movies and the comics that they put out. I highlighted earlier in this episode a few characters that you may want to consider, and this blogger highlights 2. I'm only going to highlight one of them, and that character is Kamala, who appeared a few years after Miles Morales. Her first appearance was in Captain Marvel issue number 14 from 2013. Now, admittedly, this book is a first appearance, yes, but it's also a cameo in which he appears in a single panel, but people have really been flocking to this book. And when you look at the data, according to GoCollect, the FMV of a CGC 9.8 copy of this book is sitting at around $650. When you dig a little bit deeper, over the last 2 years, the value of CGC copies of a 9.4 and a 9.6 have also risen more than 50%. This is a character, this is a book that is extremely hot. And potentially this is an area, again, that you may want to look into. So our next blogger asks a pretty provocative question. And his question is, what books are you taking to your grave? And yeah, it is a somewhat of a morbid topic, but it's also something to think about. Because the question, when you boil it down, is really about what title or what books are most important to you. If you think about it, it may not be the most expensive book in your collection. It could be a book or a series of books that have sentimental value to you. And our blogger in this post does a really good job of sharing an anecdotal story with us about his books that he's taken to his grave. And it's a ghostwriter, or technically it's a couple of ghostwriter books that he had signed by the creator at a con more than a decade ago. And this anecdotal story is really wonderful because it involves a collector, a creator, and that creator's wife. It's an interesting, fun story. And if you are married, you will get a kick out of this one. But the question that I have for you is, what book or books are you going to take to your grave? I am really interested to hear what you guys have to say about that. And I'm going to be looking for your comments down in the comment section. So I want to encourage you to leave those thoughts behind. So I recently released a video on my channel, Reggie Collects, in which I talked about the Aquaman movie. And as I reviewed all of the comments that were left behind, there were a lot of people that made some suggestions. Suggestions that the DCEU should try to replicate the success of the MCU movies, specifically in the creation of a shared universe. If you think about it, the DCEU in many ways is comprised of individual movies that kind of exist in isolation. There is some loose connectivity between some of them, but many of them are just standalone movies that are, for better or worse, standalone movies. People feel that by creating a shared universe like the MCU, the DCEU movies could actually be enhanced. And I don't know whether that's true or not. But our blogger does a really good job of making a case for how it could be done. And he specifically highlights that the Phantom Stranger could be a character that creates that thread that runs throughout all of the DCEU movies. And to that point, I am curious what people actually think about the argument. So if you take the time to read this post, I welcome your thoughts on whether the Phantom Stranger is the right character to connect all of the movies together, and if this is actually something that the DCEU actually needs. If you are a Star Wars fan, you are living the life right now. You are living the life because there is so much excitement around Star Wars that it's unbelievable. And it seems like every single week we are talking about Star Wars in some way, shape, or form. And I'm certainly not complaining. I am not complaining at all. But this week we are going to talk about a droid story. And this is actually a little known, I think, series. It's an animated series featuring the droids that is going to be coming out from Lucasfilms. And our blogger does a really good job of speculating on some books that could have an increase in value if this series comes out and people are receptive to it. 3 of those books are number ones, and they all essentially have the exact same title. The very first book is Droids issue number 1 from 1986. This book is actually from Marvel Star, and it has a current FMV at a 9.8 of $110. The last 2 sales of this book have actually been trending slightly higher than the FMV. What's great about this book is that there is some healthy sales data associated with it. There have been roughly 25 sales of this book, which should give people comfort that these numbers, these sales, this FMV is supported. The second book that our blogger talks about is Droids issue number 1, specifically from 1994, and it's from Dark Horse. At a 9.8, this book has an FMV of around $70. The last recorded sale was over $100. The very last book that I'm going to mention to you is Droids issue number 1, but this one is from 1995. It is also from Dark Horse. At a 9.8, this book has an FMV of roughly $95, but it only has about 3 sales, so not as much sales data as the earlier book, but again, there is some magic that is happening here, and if you believe that Star Wars will continue to perform into the future, this is a blog post and a couple of books that you want to check out. Before I let you go, I want to invite you to my channel, Reggie Collects, here on YouTube. Thanks to my friends at GoCollect, I offer up to my subscribers an opportunity to win a really awesome book every single week, valued somewhere between $150 and $200. To that point, I actually want to show you some of the books that are going to be given away over the next month or so. The very first book is Showcase issue number 79 from DC. I absolutely love this cover right here. Picked it up solely because of that cover. This next book is just a fantastic book that I absolutely love. It is Iron Man and Submariner issue number 1. I have several copies of this book myself, and you potentially could win that one right there just for watching some videos. Next up, we have Amazing Spider-Man issue number 27, just another classic ASM book. And then the very last book that I'll be making available is Marvel Secret Wars issue number 8. Just a classic right there. And again, all you have to do is to visit my channel and watch the videos that come out every single week for an opportunity to win.